despite the fact that my dad developed early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 51, I knew from as far back as I could remember that I was one lucky little dude. And I mean it. I knew I'd hit the lottery as far as parents go. Still have. Mom's still around. She's great. Patty cakes is a big deal. But this only becomes more and more clear as my friends and peers start or continue to reproduce. I'm not saying that my buddy Adam's kid will be scarred for life because their two-bedroom cabin just got indoor plumbing last winter. Quite the opposite, actually, as evidenced by two of my lovely ex-girlfriends who were reared at a commune called Weedy Rough, just south of here on the Winslow, represent. And they've matured into very well-adjusted, lovely individuals. All I'm saying is that by the time my sister and I came along, my folks were ready for us. We had toilets that flushed, and we had cars that started the first time, every time. And this afforded my sister and I the ability to simply just be kids, right? It was idyllic, and we both knew it, and it was not wasted on us, and it was a fantastic childhood. My dad, there he is, was a tall, stout, mostly bald-headed man who looked almost identical to Hoss Cartwright, the gentle giant from the series Bonanza. He was in the bulk of the series. Dad was born large, got big quick, and at the age of 22, he moved down to New Orleans, where he lived for 10 years and gained 10 pounds per year that he was there, eating his way across the French border. He lived in a swanky apartment whose backyard garden court kind of scenario butted up to the back of Commander's Palace, the famed restaurant. And he and his best friend Noel, who lived in the apartment below his, would throw these massive, ornate, swinging, formal parties there and have it catered by the restaurant. Dad was, in every sense of the word, a gourmand. Everything he did big. Tobacco pipes, man had about 200. He had them mounted on the wall in his study. They'd fall out of the door of his Suburban when he opened them up. Books, he received a monthly care package of personally selected titles assembled into a box by the guys at Hayes and Sanders, the old bookstore on Block Street. And clothes. It was he and not my mom that occupied the walk-in closet in the master bedroom of the house I grew up in. Not only for his vast collection of custom-made suits, but also for his various costumes he accumulated for his vast array of hobbies. Here he is dressed as John Wesley Powell going down the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. Handsome devil. Going to Devil's Den for the day? He would emerge from the bedroom looking like Indiana Jones with a rock hammer slung onto his belt. Just going to do a little mineralogy with the kids. We were 3 and 6. It's a blast. But back to New Orleans and all the food and all the eating, okay? By the time he met my mom, Dad was a certified fat boy. He weighed 320 pounds. And my mom married him. Which just goes to show how charming the man was, all right? They met at work, which was at the Auctioneer Clinic Hospital in New Orleans. My dad was a resident there, and my mom was a brand new nurse. And they were both working in the ER when a patient came in cardiac arrest. And it was all hands on deck and general pandemonium. And they defibbed the patient, and they reestablished a heartbeat and stabilized him, and then they wheeled the patient into the cardiac wing. And my dad approached my mom. She hadn't said anything because she was still kind of in an observation role, being a brand new nurse. She hadn't lifted a finger, hadn't said a word, and he saunters up to her, and he sees her name tag right there, and he looks down and he goes, "Patty, huh? What's the other one's name?" And they were married 9 months later. So besides all the hobbies, amateur geologist, historian, collector of medical ephemera, what I think really defined my dad was his love for stories. All right? He loved to hear them, but more importantly, he loved to tell them. But they had to be funny, right? They had to have a punchline, they had to have a turn. And they essentially were long jokes. Nowadays, a joke takes anywhere from like 5 to 30 seconds. Very rarely does it touch upon a minute. But my dad had a more older, atavistic form of storytelling that was 4 to 5 minutes long, sometimes even longer. It was the kind of stuff that your great-great-grandparents would do before their family bought their first radio. Dad relished holding court with his friends at the table. After dinner, kind of scooted away, usually with a cigarette in his hand and a glass of scotch, telling a joke whose length actually allowed for multiple characters' development, each with a particular accent or backstory completely unnecessary to the punchline, but nonetheless enjoyable, right? And I have tons of memories of observing this as a little guy, and it was the happiest I ever saw him. He was in his element, and I think all of his friends would agree with me saying that, because after he died, I traveled the country meeting up with his old friends and interviewing them on camera and in the attempt to make a documentary, kind of preserve the guy. It was pretty simple. I emailed everyone the same 3 questions beforehand, and they would basically share whatever they thought was quintessential in defining him. And every last person mentioned how much he loved to tell stories. Specifically, almost everyone mentioned the story of Oar Locks, okay? Not War Locks, Oar Locks, O-A-R-L-O-C-K-S. Just they're like metal U-shaped brackets that are on the gunnels of boats, right? You like rest your oars in. Got it? Clear? Okay. So I had not heard this story, and everyone's like, "Have you heard Oar Locks?" No, I haven't heard this story. Probably because it's a story for adults, and I was pretty young when my dad's memory started to go. So I started to get kind of upset about it. There's this one story that sticks out in everyone's mind, and I'll probably never hear it. And no one could even remember a line. They just knew about the guy with the painful dentures, which plagued him his entire life. And so the story of Oar Locks remained a mystery, until I went down to Little Rock to interview Noel, my dad's co-conspirator from New Orleans. And Noel mentions Oar Locks, and he tells me that he might have a recording of Dad telling it at his family's homestead cabin there in Bowdoin, Arkansas. This is in East Arkansas. So, for a week, every year, my dad and Noel's brothers and their buds would all go over to this cabin and hang out. They'd shoot guns from the porch. There was no hunting because it's way too involved. They'd eat meals. Every meal was like a big involved thing, and then from what I can gather, at night, they would just sit around and drink whiskey and tell stories and shoot the shit. And one year, this was in the 80s, Noel brought one of those big clunky tape recorders and hit record, and he got my dad's voice and like these stories, and he told me that, before I left Little Rock, he's like, I can find these things and compile them onto a CD and send them to you, and he did. And I put it in the CD player and listened to it, and it was strange hearing my dad's voice because it had been about 15 years since I had heard it. But even stranger was the fact that I had heard none of these stories. And there were some about me, like as a little dude. Because they were all adult stories, right? They're not for little kids. Okay, and so Oar Locks was on this story. And so I listened to it, and I transcribed it. And now, to honor him, I would like to share with you guys the story of Oar Locks. Dad's from Mississippi. He had kind of a southern drawl, and I can't help but do it when that's just how it's going to go. One time, there was this young guy, about 19, 20 years old, lived by himself in a little one-bedroom efficiency type apartment, and he had himself a job working on the assembly line. He woke up about 4 o'clock in the morning with the worst toothache imaginable. He'd never had a toothache before in his life. He thought someone had snuck into his apartment and hit him in the face with a baseball bat. He's laying in bed, wide awake, and he goes into the bathroom, and his jaw's all swollen, and he touches it, and just about fainted. He was young and single and living in a miserably equipped apartment. He scoured the place and finally found 2 old brown aspirin tablets in the bottom of the bathroom drawer, and about 2 swallows of whiskey from a half pint in the kitchen sink. He took those 2 aspirins and washed it down with the whiskey, and that didn't help much. And at that point, he knew he wasn't getting back to sleep. So he was just pacing around, and he went over and picked up the phone booth and found the address of the nearest dentist. About 6 o'clock, he showered and shaved and got dressed and drove over to the dentist's office. And he was sitting on the front steps of his office. About 8 o'clock, the dentist drives up, takes a look at it and says, "Man, it looks like you've got an abscessed tooth." The guy says, "I don't know what I've got, but I've never had any pain like this in my life." He said, "I've been awake, wide awake, since about 4 o'clock this morning, and I'm miserable. Can you do something to help me?" And the dentist says, "Sure, man, come on in, let's have a look at you." He gets the guy in the chair. He pries his mouth open, gets a look inside, and says, "Shit," he said, "you've got the worst looking teeth I have ever seen." He said, "You don't have a healthy looking tooth in your head, but you've got about 2 right here next to each other. They are abscessed, rotten, slammed to the core, and they need to come out." He said, "I'm going to take these out right now and put you on some antibiotics and give you some pain pills, and you'll feel a lot better in about 24 hours. But you need to have all these other teeth pulled. They are beyond redemption. We can get you some really good dentures made, and you'll be a lot more comfortable wearing those dentures than you are with these teeth you got, because you're going to have this problem about once a year for the next 20 years. The guy said, "Man, I don't know. I feel like I'm awfully young to have dentures." And the dentist said, "Well, you are, but you need it anyway." He said, "Why don't you think about it over the weekend? I'm sure you know somebody who wears dentures, and talk to them and just get them to tell you about life with dentures." And the kid says, "All right, that'll be fine." Dentist wrote him an excuse to stay off work for a couple days, gave him some pain pills, some antibiotics, and sent him on his way home. Monday morning, the kid feels great. He's driving to work, and he remembers that his foreman wears dentures. So he goes and punches in and starts doing his work, and come break time, he walks up to the foreman and says, "Hey, say man, can I have a minute of your time?" And the foreman said, "Sure." Kid says, "I've just been told that I've got to have all my teeth pulled. They're in shitty shape, and the dentist is telling me that I need dentures." And he said, "What can you tell me about dentures?" And the foreman says, "Well, I'll tell you about dentures." He said, "I don't know if you know it or not, but my hobbies are fishing. And every time I'm not working, if I got any vacation at all, goddamn it, I'm out fishing." I said, "Last winter, it's February, and I had a long weekend. I had a 4-day weekend going, and I had me a dandy fishing trip planned until my wife stuck her nose in there and said, 'You rotten son of a bitch. You're sneaking off of fishing all the time and leaving me at home.' And she said, 'God damn it, I'm going to go fishing with you.' So I thought to myself, I ain't going to get no place till I take her fishing. So I went to bed and got up early the next morning and put my boat and trailer behind my camping truck, and off we went and drove for 3 solid hours. I said I got there just before sunup, and I launched that boat in the lake. I parked that camping truck in the perfect position and got in the boat, and away we went. We went down the lake about 4 or 5 miles and went to the head of my favorite cove, and God damn it, it's cold. I said, "Shit, it's cold." So I got stopped up there in the head of that cove, and I was teaching my wife how to cast and how to set the hook. And said, "Oh boy, it was cold. So cold we had on long johns and had them snowmobiling suits on. Had on them rubber hip waders. Said had ski masks on and gloves with the holes cut in the fingers so I could throw my line." They said, "My wife was up there in the middle of that boat just fishing up the bow seat." I said, "I don't know if you've seen my wife or not, but she's a big old girl. God damn it, she weighs about 300 pounds. So I was in the back of that boat just fishing away and having a hell of a time. Catching a nice bucket mouth about every 3 cases. Nice bucket mouth about 4 pounds. Having a great fucking time. And I looked up the corner of my eye and seen that big girl up there set that hook, and she gave a hell of a yank and tumbled her fat ass right out the boat. Said she was out there in the water just a screaming and a blubbering, and she can't swim a lick, and she didn't have no goddamn life jacket on. I said, "Holy shit, the lady's gonna drown." I should have stood up and I was taking off that snowmobile suit and God, that was a major undertaking. And I come out of them hip boots and I left my long johns on because I knew I'd freeze to death if I didn't have something on. And I said, I put my life jacket on and I stood on the side of that boat. I had to save her ass because I knew she could drown. So I jumped in the water and just as I jumped, the boat burst and I hung my balls on the oar locks. I said, it's the first time these goddamn teeth haven't tried to kill me in 37 years. Oar locks. So, yeah, I know, segue. Awkward. All right, moving on. So my dad's disease progressed rather aggressively, and it became clear that taking care of him was beyond a full-time job, beyond something that my mom and sister or I could do, and so we put him in a nursing home. My dad was a wanderer, meaning like he walked. He escaped our house and was found halfway to Goshen on Highway 45, and when we put him in the first 2 nursing homes, he escaped both of those. He was a flight risk, and so we put him in a place called Rochier Heights, the 3rd of the nursing homes that we tried. It's an absolute shithole. It's gone now, bulldozed. It was kind of across the street from the high school, up on the hill where those apartments are. And I mean, the place was disgusting, but it had a separate, like, wing that was locked, okay? So the guy couldn't escape. And it had a little keypad to go in and out one door, and it had a circular walkway, so that worked. And all the nurses there were these big old fat girls, redneck fat girl nurses, but I think that like reminded him of his patients, and like there was some familiarity there, and so it worked with him. And we're like, all right, this is it. The shithole is where you live now, but I guess it works. So it's the holidays. It's December 23rd, and I have stayed up all night the night before partying because it's such a happy and joyous time in my family, and show up to Rochier Heights for the Christmas meal. I walk in and my sister looks at me and she goes, oh my God, you smell awful. I was like, yeah, just give it a second, like wait for the horror of smells of this place to envelop me. Mom, I won't get busted, I'll be good, and that's what happened. I got away with it, it's fine. And so we went into the dining hall and we got my dad from his room and wheeled him in. He was, at this point, not walking, not moving, not talking. He suffered from aphasia, which was the lack of the ability to talk. So he had been catatonic for about 3 years. And he's in his Jerry chair, which is a wheelie, recumbent chair that you can wipe down with like a little placemat here, like a tray, so we could feed him. Wheeled him into the dining hall, and got our miserable trays of Christmas glop, dressing the turkey and whatnot. And we're just trying to keep it happy. Chatting. And this old white-haired lady comes up and she's like, Harrison! It's my dad's name, the same name. She's like, Harrison, oh my God, I love him so much. We're like, who are you? And she's like, well, I'm here every week, once a week, and I sing church songs. And your daddy just loves to sing. He's got the best voice. And I was like, really? Here's the thing. My mom was Catholic. My dad, when they hooked up, placated her and was like, all right, we'll do the Episcopal Church right over there. All right, it's Catholicism light. He's like, I'll be an usher. So I'll be smoking cigs, drinking coffee outside with all my friends. The other ushers come in past the brass bowl, and that's it. Dad didn't sing church songs. And she is relentless, and she had her little hymnal right here, and she was like right up in his face right here, and she'd sing a few lines. Expecting him to jump in? Nothing. He's just staring forward. And she tries this 3-4 times, and she's like, I just love him, and he loves to sing. I don't know what's going on. And we'd go back to like singing in his face. And I could tell my sister was getting really uncomfortable and was wanting to like just kind of stop this whole thing. You know, just be like, I don't know who you are, but I saw this, I recognize this, and I leaned towards her, and I was like, don't say a word. Let this play out. I need this. So she continues singing. She just doesn't get, I mean, she was relentless. Finally, she's singing in his face. She stops and she's like, well, Harrison, you want me to just go away? And my dad turns and goes, yes! It's the first words he'd spoken in 3 years, and it was the last words he ever spoke. That was it. That was it. It's amazing. He was still in there. He was still in there. So, years later, my dad died, and it was during the summer. And it was very nice as far as deaths go. We knew he was dying, and we brought him home. We were all there with him. And this afforded us the opportunity to, just kind of plan a funeral, plan what the fuck we're going to do afterwards. And I elected to go back to the summer camp. Dad went to the same summer camp. It's in northern Minnesota. He spent 6 summers there as a young boy, as a youth. And I spent 12 or a lot of summers there as a camper and as a counselor. And I was like, all right, I'm going to camp. What better way to honor my dad? And so we had him cremated. And I took some of his ashes up there, and I was like, I'll find some spot up there, I'll have an epiphany. The cosmos will speak to me of the perfect place to put my dad's ashes, right? Here's what I learned. You don't schedule an epiphany. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work like that. Go up there, I spend my 2.5 months camp counselor. There's no epiphany. I'm like, fuck, I don't know where I'm going to put these things. And so the 2.5 months are up, I got a plane to catch. My bags are packed, take them down to the main dock. This camp's on an island in a lake. And my dad's ashes are in a Ziploc bag. They're in this wooden, appropriately, cigar humidor. And load up. My buds are with me too. They're gonna get in the boat and ride across the channel and take me into town to catch my plane. And so I load up all my bags and shit in the boat. I'm looking down at this humidor. I'm like, all right, man, what are you gonna do with these things? I'm like, all right, well, main dock. This is nice. Lake, it's beautiful. Okay, we'll wing this epiphany. Main dock. First step on, last step off, right? Hello, goodbye, there we go. There's there's a couple of cedar trees right there by some grass. Done, deal. Pick up the ashes, open it up, pat it into the ground, wipe the hands off, good to go. There's Dad. Base of the trees. So, I don't go back to camp for 3 more years. I go up there to visit. And I get onto the main dock, and I'm seeing all my friends. Handshakes and hugs, how was your winter, yada, yada, yada. And eventually they all kind of wander off, and I'm alone, so I go over to the trees. It's time to commune with Dad. Get down on my knees, have my moment, and I'm looking down at the grass. I'm like, here's where Dad is. There's Dad. No, really, there's Dad. There are bone fragments that didn't burn up in the grass, right by the main dock of this nationally renowned summer camp for boys. Send us your kid, we'll turn him into a man. Fly him up here to northern Minnesota. He'll go on a boat, he'll come across the channel, and as soon as he's on the main dock, he's going to be 10 feet away from a dead man. And I could hear my dad laughing. And you want to talk about waiting for a punchline? That motherfucker took 3 years. And I thought it was worth it. Thanks a lot.